So I'm stealing time to do this one, so I have to be quick. I, I mean, honestly, this, right now stealing time isn't a time and place of motivation for me right now because I'm so tired. But here we go. Let's talk about the topic of gambling and roulette scams. Now, what is this in reference to and stuff? This is not really a constructive and precise term and stuff. Maybe not even a known term, but basically, a gambling and roulette scam is when a person is brought to take a chance to hazard their currency or something they value and stuff. But the game is basically rigged and stuff. Like you're starting off in a losing position and stuff. To take this is like you you just started a grim trigger and stuff. Like you're just gonna either you know in the best case you're gonna break even and stuff. You know, you can analyze it. You can do the uh, concrete analysis in your head and stuff, the dose calculation and stuff, whatever you want to call, the different angles of the game and stuff, and um, think, you know, but it's just totally losing and stuff. But unfortunately, this is what some people and organizations try to do, and um, let's get into it and stuff. It's an important topic. Um, so what's the premise here? Like, what understanding are we starting with? I mean, this is some of it and stuff. Um, a gambling scam happens when a person who entices the gamble already has the outcome they want guaranteed from before the game, but wants to rip someone off for their money. So basically, the person knows this is rigged and stuff, but they're deploying this idea because they want to fleece that person, which is dirty. It's just not fair. Um, and so the one who accepts the gamble is not walking out in profit, and the proposer walks away in profit and stuff. Um, the proposer does not necessarily know what the terms of the game are. The paper square game, like for example, this is the paper square game in Squid Game. Like that, like maybe the game design itself is fair and stuff, but you know, you it was pretty obvious that those are not really winnable games, um, because you know the people who take those games end up being pretty bad at paying attention. You know that which drastically narrows down the type of person that takes that game and stuff. Um, anything else here? And then there's this, and for a real life example, there's the pig dice swindle and stuff. The, you know, and the pig dice swindle has a variation. You have the handball swindle and stuff. Handball meaning like the prison game of wall ball and stuff with the bouncing ball and stuff. For people who are not familiar with New York stuff, um, you know, in that and stuff, the person is basically going to have you do multiple games and stuff until they win back and get some profit and stuff. They may or may not value their own time. If they don't, great and stuff. You met somebody who um, is rather dumb, honestly. So you don't have to worry too much. So yeah, there's outs there and stuff. You might actually, it might actually be your lucky day to be in that situation and stuff. But you never know until it's too late in that situation. Stuff. Um, in in most cases and stuff, you have to have some pretty serious data and some serious data literacy skills and whatnot uh, to be able to predict this type of thing. So yeah, with the pig dice thing, sometimes these guys who play pig dice, they have a weapon and stuff, and they're gonna be mad about losing sometimes, and or they're just gonna kill you because they know like like they're gonna they're gonna hit a lick that way and stuff. So there's that and stuff, and the handball hustlers they do the same thing. Um, yeah, so you try to play against the house, and the house always wins, basically. And then you have another real life example of the free to play video game models and stuff. What's the issue there? Well, you're creating an incentive for the developer, for somebody from the development team to go, hey, we need more money and stuff, and we have all these people who would pay more money into the game and stuff, or putting more into the game. So let's give them a better experience and stuff. And then voila, we have things like the algorithm that came out in 2013 or 2012 or so, which was modifying, uh, the balance of material to favor players who paid into the DLC and stuff, which is against the rules of fair play and stuff. In principle, it's wrong, but it be unfortunately it was permitted. Um, and you know, uh, yeah, that's a dirty, dirty business. But here's the question, But Daniel, like you might ask, what if I get stuck in one of these dirty gambles? And have it written here. This is why we developed the mind to be smart, out of proportion with the body, and so on. You know, you can have, a person can have a great heart and stuff. You can have a big heart, you can have a strong heart, whatever. Um, but if your mind can't take it and stuff, your thoughts are gonna scatter and stuff, and so on. Like you, you have to do your best proportion your character and stuff, and not you know and not fall prey to time preference and stuff to where you just get more out of to where you get more out of whack and out of proportion and stuff. Um, it's good to grow as a person, and for that reason, you get a lot of good ideas that way. Um, and yeah, you need to be like here it says you need to be extremely cautious to know what you're allowed to do and what you're not. You respond selectively and you think about variations. You know, it's worth the time and stuff because you're eliminating risk and stuff. That's insurance, and you are maximizing benefit. You know, and you're gonna meet people that see this behavior and think you're doing something wrong, whatever, or they don't like what you're doing and stuff. Don't let them bully or mess with you and stuff. Um, so that's the time to take adverse action or to make adverse speech. Um, you know, and yeah, you have to manage the risk in these dirty gambles and stuff. Um, and gambling mechanisms they have a workings in the background and stuff. You really have to be sharply attentive to what you're dealing with to understand um, what the puzzle is there and when to force the issue, when to slow it down, when to speed it up and stuff, how long to do something for, and so on. You know, um, so what's a fair gamble and stuff? In a fair gamble, Available activity material is equal between competitors and the workings of the game, and there is as much equality between players and the workings of the game itself. That is the encapsulatory definition and stuff. And if you go into the game theoretics aspect of it and stuff, there's a few different types of definitions and stuff because more like a positional thing, or it's a relation that focuses on the important details and stuff, which are important for their inherent value and stuff and their potential value. That's a good way of looking at it. Um, and sometimes there's like a historical related value to it. So you know, yeah. So that's that's a reason to open up your mind to it. Um, to other definitions of things and stuff. But there's limits to that. There's limits to how you can define something. You know, just like there's limits to how every equation is defined. Um, and if uh, Yeah, and a fair gamble, nobody is a patsy and stuff. Like this is not like the paper square game, whatever you want to call that game. I forgot. Um, or the pig dice hustle. But what about sports gambling? Like why is it allowed and stuff? Um, Sports gambling is pretty dirty. You know, it tends to draw in the fools that want to lose money. Um, if everybody wins in gambling, nobody wins. So there's that. Like, uh, but there's a thing about it and stuff. Closer and closer to bet closing time becomes clear who is more ready to win and stuff. Um, you know, so and your betting venue matters too and stuff. Like you don't want some betting menu with lagging indicators and stuff like that. Like you want to know what's really going on. So there's that. Yeah, and some people they gamble because process addiction unfortunately is being genetically driven and stuff. But the body has counter genes and stuff, and um, not every little thing is genetic. It's just not, or not anything is genetic and stuff. Uh, so that would be a personal mistake in that assumption. And yeah, but yeah, it's the idiots that are more prone to being that are more prone to this behavior and stuff. Gambling and constantly losing and stuff, and losing so much of their savings and everything. Um, Now, is chess a fair game? What about some other turn-based games? Some smartass, because I know how some people view me, and I know some people's opinion on me. They think that I'm like some know-it-all smartass that just explains what he knows and stuff because he wants to put on a show or something. Well, no, it's because sometimes some things need to be said. That's it. You know, um, Sometimes it's important that they're said repeatedly. Um, but here, what I wrote about chess is true. Chess is extremely close to fair. The player that goes first is a half move ahead, meaning that player always has a shorter distance to checkmate and stuff. He can set the terms from the beginning, basically, by being the greater threat. He's had more time to develop the performance of his pieces. So, um, but gambling's exciting and stuff. But like now that now that gambling, doesn't feel as fun anymore for the moment and stuff. What is fun? Well, this is what you can do for fun. You find or generate ideas and stuff, even if it means you do 45 minutes of hard thinking, whatever. Um, you revise them so they're not destructive, expensive, too pointless, too dangerous, or illegal. Duh. You know. Um, like uh, and yeah, here we talk about doing the results and everything, and I mean, it's person can just read it for themselves. So why are you talking like why are you ruining this topic by blowing away all the smoke around it and stuff? And it's like, well, it's too much. There's too much shit coming from mass media making U.S. residents psychotic and stupid. The brain is a garbage in, garbage out device and stuff. And once you have garbage coming out of it and stuff, it's basically identical to stupidity, craziness and stuff. Like at you don't. It's not always clear whether the person's joking or not. It's so, yeah. Um. Oh, Dan, you're so boring. That's fine. Boring dudes get the good women too, and your mom doesn't think so. Again, that's fine. I would rather be boring than have a U.S. resident get effectively gator rolled by a gambling trap. I'll take this if it means some kid or a nice person, public servants, etc., doesn't get ripped off. Those are the people that are more important in civilization. Everyone else can fall into wood chipper or become door opening servitors for all I care. And for people who don't know about door opening servitors, it's not a pretty picture. Um, do I dare? Yeah, I'll show a door opening servitor. How best? Okay. Um, well, pretty much all the servitors generally have these features and stuff. Torn apart, discarded, and stuff. The process of creating a servitor is extremely painful, excruciating. They're given horrible health care and stuff, and treated horribly and stuff as a reflection of, you know, the things they've done and said. You know, that's their compensation for what they're worth. Um, yeah. So, uh, and going back to it again, yeah, there it is. You think you're so smart. No, I don't. Me not being as smart as I think I am is why I say this stuff. I often make the mistake of being convinced people don't already know what I'm talking about. You were wrong again, and your mother thinks so too. Um, yeah, I feel like I've driven home the point. I'll just go through these slides here again. And yeah, that's everything I have to say about gambling and roulette scams. Um,